junctures from Liverpool, England.
People all over the world are just beginning to talk about the Beatles.
My model of business is the Beatles. You know, they were four very talented guys.
1, 2, 3.
Hello, my name's Paul McCartney.
This is Ringo Starr. This is John Lennon.
I'm George Harrison.
Welcome back to another episode of the Here, There, and Everywhere podcast. I'm your host, Jack Lawless. As you probably know, John Lennon wrote the song Strawberry Fields Forever while filming a movie, How I Won the War, during a brief hiatus from the Beatles, following a hectic tour in 1966. During this time, John was soul-searching and feeling nostalgic. Like the song Penny Lane, Strawberry Fields Forever is about a place that John remembered from childhood. Right around the corner from John's childhood home was the Strawberry Field Salvation Army Children's Home. According to Paul McCartney, John always imagined Strawberry Field to be a beautiful place, and John used to roam the grounds with his friends and always looked forward to a garden party that was held there every summer. For John, Strawberry Field was a place to retreat and feel at peace. And now the Salvation Army has opened the gates to Strawberry Field to the public for the first time, allowing visitors to explore the same grounds John Lennon did as a kid. Today we're speaking with Major Kathy Versfeld, Mission Director at Strawberry Field in Liverpool. Kathy's talking to us about the experience of visiting Strawberry Field and the attractions that are there, the amazing STEPS program that's held at Strawberry Field, which helps adults with employment barriers find paid work, and why Strawberry Field is a must-see for all Beatles fans wanting to visit Liverpool. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and feel free to check out the podcast description for more information about visiting Strawberry Field and how you can support the STEPS program. Hey, Kathy, thank you so much for coming on the Here, There, and Everywhere podcast. How are you doing today?
Fabulous. I'm sitting at my desk at Strawberry Field looking out over a lovely, bright, clear day at Strawberry Field.
Awesome. Yeah, Strawberry Field is such a beautiful place. Can you tell us a little bit about Strawberry Field for those who might only be familiar with the Beatles song?
Of course. Strawberry Field was purchased by the Salvation Army back in 1934 from the estate of a local business person here in Liverpool. And it was a wonderful Victorian mansion, you know, a family home with extensive grounds. Salvation Army was looking for a place that they could use as a children's home to support young people in the Liverpool area who, they weren't orphans, but they were young people whose families, for whatever reason, couldn't look after them. And so the Salvation Army was looking for a property where they could provide a loving, caring home for these young people. And they purchased the property in 1934 and spent 2 years, you know, transforming it into this place that would be a wonderful refuge, a safe space where the young people could thrive and flourish away from home, you know, away from their own families. And so in 1936, the Salvation Army opened its Strawberry Field Children's Home. And it remained a children's home for 70 years until the start of the new millennium. But it was during that period, while the Salvation Army was running Strawberry Field as a children's home, that John Lennon moved into the neighborhood. He moved into the property that was on the back fence, the back border of the Strawberry Field estate. And many Beatles fans will know that John Lennon would climb over the fence and play in these wonderful grounds. You know, the back half of the estate, the side on which he lived, had huge numbers of trees. It was a very extensive area, and he would come and play with his friends, but he would also sit and spend time on his own, in the trees, amongst the trees. I guess reflecting even as a young child on life and, dreaming big dreams about his future.
Yeah, that's such an incredible connection between John and the Salvation Army. Now, Kathy, what's your role there at Strawberry Field, and how did you decide you wanted to be involved?
I am the mission director here at Strawberry Field, which means that I lead all the work that takes place here at Strawberry Field across the estate. I am a Salvation Army officer. I'm a major in the Salvation Army, which means that I have been a Salvation Army officer for more than 20 years. And I follow in the footsteps of those who, when John was playing in the grounds, when John was visiting the grounds, who would lead, and take care of the children in the children's home. So I was sent to Strawberry Field 7 years ago now. It wasn't in any sense a choice, in that Salvation Army officers, their commitment is to go where they're sent and to do the work that the Salvation Army required that they do. And again, that would have been like the folks that worked here and cared for the children back in the day when John Lennon was a young lad himself. And so in 2018, I was appointed to be the new mission director for the new centre. And my first day in Liverpool was my first day on the job. And I remember coming to the gates of Strawberry Field and looking in at the property, as many Beatles fans have done, standing at those beautiful red gates and looking in. And I couldn't actually go beyond the red gates because the place was a construction site. The groundbreaking had just been done, and all of the previous buildings had been knocked down. And as I looked, there was no, buildings to be seen, but there was this vision that the Salvation Army had of this wonderful new visitor center that was under construction, where the fans would be invited to come beyond the red gates and to explore the place that John knew and wrote Strawberry Fields Forever about, to walk in the footsteps of John and discover this magical place, the garden. Now, the garden isn't quite as large as it was back in John Lennon's day, but it is still a beautiful space, a place that we love people to wander through and just get that sense of peace and stillness and sanctuary that I think John found here. But alongside that, the visitor exhibition here, the visitor center holds an interactive exhibition with a media guide available in various languages that visitors can use to hear the story of Strawberry Field. So it's not a Beatles exhibition per se, but it tells the story of Strawberry Field, the home, the work of the Salvation Army, the connection with John, the song, and the ongoing work that takes place here in this new generation, in this new era, through this new building, which at the very heart has changed from being a home for young children to becoming a learning hub for young adults with disabilities, learning disabilities, and other challenges with regard to getting into paid employment. And so we offer downstairs a place where we can help these young people acquire the skills, build up their confidence, inspire them to dream big, like I'm sure John did when he came to Strawberry Field. So we work with them, and then they come on placement at Strawberry Field, in the cafe, in the shop, in the gardens, and they learn the skills required to make a valuable contribution in the life of work. And then we send them out across the Liverpool City region to businesses and other organizations that work with us to further enhance their skills and their training and their confidence. And that program we call the Steps to Work program, and it is an extensive program. It's up to 18 months long, totally person-centered, tailored for the individual needs of the young people that come to us. And it's part of our way of, I believe, demonstrating responsible tourism. So we have the visitor exhibition, the visitor attraction, but running alongside it and benefiting from the exhibition is the Steps to Work program, which, as I say, is encouraging these young people, training these young people for the world of work.
Yeah, and that's such an inspiring program that you guys have there. I mean, I remember I was lucky enough to visit Strawberry Field in Liverpool in 2022. And when I was there, it was very inspiring, learning about that program and taking the guided tour of Strawberry Field with those headphones and walking around the same places John used to walk around as a kid. It's just a very amazing experience, and I think it's something that every Beatles fan should really do if they are capable of visiting Liverpool.
Well, I would agree, of course, but I'm biased, okay? I'm
Right.
biased, but absolutely. We always say, come and see, come experience it for yourself. We know what a special place it is, and I absolutely believe that John caught a glimpse of that, which is why he wrote the song, and it seemed to really be interested in his adult life to continue to support the work that was being done here with those children.
Now, Kathy, when did you hear the Beatles for the first time, and what were your thoughts when you first heard them?
Well, now, can you detect an accent when I speak?
Yeah, is that Australian?
South African.
Oh, South African.
And
Okay.
I spent the first half of my life living in Cape Town in South Africa. And I remember as a child in the 70s attending my slightly older cousins' weddings. And I had a big family, so we had loads of cousins' weddings. And I distinctly remember hearing the Beatles' music at those weddings and how it would just galvanize the room, the celebration. Everyone would be on their feet, irrespective of age, and we'd all be bopping around. So that was like on the other side of the world when I first heard the Beatles. So, as a young person, it kind of connected with me. I loved the joy and the exuberance of the sound, I think, and I grew up in the apartheid era, apartheid South Africa as a young child, where people were often challenged and yet to have music that was so captivating and encouraging and could connect on so many different levels, the celebrations and the questioning and the sad times and the challenges, it was all there. So I was a convert from quite a young age, and then more recently coming to this country 30 years ago now, to the United Kingdom, and working as a Salvation Army officer, and more recently coming up here to Liverpool to do the role that I do here at Strawberry Field 7 years ago. It's been such a blessing to discover the richness and the ongoing importance of the music of the Beatles.
Wow, that's such a powerful story. And I think you're right. I mean, I think the Beatles kind of connect everybody. I know each generation kind of rediscovers the Beatles and falls in love with them for whatever reason that may be. It seems like they do bring happiness to each generation that discovers them. And I think that's incredible. Uh, uh, Now, now for the Beatles fans who are listening to this podcast, I'm sure it's a goal of most Beatles fans to eventually go to Liverpool and to visit these sites such as Strawberry Field. Kathy, what can you tell us about visiting Strawberry Field? When is the best time of year to go? When is Strawberry Field open to the public?
The great news, Jack, is that Strawberry Field is open 362 days of the year. We are open every day from Monday through to Sunday, between 10 and 5 typically. And, anyone can come. We have flung wide those gates to Strawberry Field, shut for so many decades when it was a children's home. And we say, come inside, explore Strawberry Field for yourself. And when they come, we have the visitor exhibition with the media guide, which is the only paying side of the center. Okay, so if you want to go into the exhibition, and we would encourage people to do that, because you hear the story there, you understand why this place was so special to John. It also, in the exhibition, we have John's Imagine piano, which is on long-term loan from the George Michael estate, and for many Beatles fans, George Michael fans, it's a very moving moment to come face to face with that wonderful instrument, So we have an exhibition which has a media guide that tells the story of Strawberry Field and the connection with John. And then you can also take the media guide out into the garden where John played, and you can choose various styles of music if you want to accompany you as you wander around the garden. In the garden, we have, some quiet spaces where you can just sit and reflect. And we also have the original gates, because there are replica gates on the front of the property now. The original gates are in the garden itself, so you can sit there and just pause and reflect. We also have a recently built bandstand in the grounds. It's a beautiful bandstand, like nowhere else in the world. And the bandstand is themed around a bass drum. And I guess as a Beatles fan, that might make you think about the Sgt. Pepper album with its image of the bass drum. But also as a member of the Salvation Army, for me, when I see this beautiful bandstand which is modeled around a bass drum, I'm reminded of the marching bands of the Salvation Army and the bass drum that they would always have with them. And so you can go onto the bandstand, and we also have a replica of the Imagine mosaic from Strawberry Fields in New York, again, which is just beautiful. So you can visit the bandstand, you can wander through the grounds. We also have, because of John's legacy of peace, we have what we believe is the world's first Ukrainian peace monument in our grounds at the moment, which we have been asked to provide a temporary place of sanctuary for until the war in Ukraine ends, and the peace monument can be sent home to the place that it was intended for at the end of the war. And it's been with us since May 2023, and we're praying that it won't remain with us for too much longer. But it's here because of that legacy that John had of looking around our world and longing to see peace. And it's that longing, that hope that he had is with us all still today, all these years later. And so we feel so blessed that the Global Peace Initiative, which is based in the States, asked us to be custodian of this symbol and the longing for peace in our world, not just in Ukraine, but all around our world. And so the monument is a constant reminder every day that even as we celebrate John's legacy of peacemaking, it's not job done. We are still called to be peacemakers within our own circles, within our own community, within our own families, within our own cities, but also further afield, to be people of peace who seek peace in whatever way we have the opportunity to seek it. Whether we are musicians like John, who use that gifting and that calling to remind people of the importance of peacemaking and peace seeking, or whether we are a place like Strawberry Field and an organization, a church like the Salvation Army, a charity like the Salvation Army, who offers this space as a place for personal peace, where people can come and find sanctuary here. And we have here at Strawberry Field, in addition to the visitor exhibition and the cafe, there's a wonderful retail space where you can buy all sorts of merchandise, t-shirts and things that you can only get at Strawberry Field. Alongside that, the commercial operation, we have the learning hub, which is based downstairs at Strawberry Field, where young people with learning difficulties and disabilities come to us and acquire those skills to allow them to enter the place of paid employment. But we also have, as the Salvation Army, opportunities for people to engage with us. So we are a place of spiritual exploration where people can come and reflect and, seek out those bigger questions of life. John wrote Strawberry Fields Forever. And, we are all still asking that question, what in life lasts forever? What is legacy truly about? And, for us as the Salvation Army, as a Christian church, we encourage those to explore, those who come and who want to explore the bigger questions of life about, what does last forever? So it's a place where there's so much to experience, whether you do it on your own and you just wander around, or you bring a group, you come and celebrate a special occasion, or you do it as a pilgrimage, a fan that wants to come to Liverpool. Yes, of course, you've got to come to Strawberry Field and experience it for yourself.
And Kathy, earlier you mentioned the STEPS program at Strawberry Field. Can you tell us a little bit more about that program? And if anyone would want to support it or participate in it, can you tell us how they would do that as well?
Of course, Jack. When the Salvation Army decided that it was time to think of a new chapter, a new way of serving the needs of the local community here in Liverpool, and the children's home was closed actually in 2005, Salvation Army spent probably a decade exploring, what next? What are the needs within the local community here and, around the country and around the world? And they discovered that across the country as a whole, that 50% of people with a learning disability said that they wanted to be in paid work. So half of those with a learning disability. But the reality was that only about 6% were in paid employment. And the Salvation Army, looked at that statistic and said, well, that sounds like a social injustice there. If half those with a disability want to be in work and only 5% or 6% are, that's not right. Someone needs to do something. And so the Salvation Army, as is often the case around in communities around the world, they said, well, we're going to do something about that. And in Liverpool, where the challenge was even greater, the percentage was even lower than 5 or 6%, they decided that they would redevelop the Strawberry Field site so that it would be a learning center, a training center for young adults with these disabilities, and providing them with the tools and the confidence to get out into the world of work and realize their potential. But there was something else that they discovered as they were, making their plans and having conversations with the local community. That they discovered that every year, 60,000 fans were bringing themselves basically uninvited to the gates of Strawberry Field while it was a children's home. Can you imagine? 60,000 people were coming, stopping at the red gates, getting a photograph. And then because, the center was a children's home, that, they couldn't just come inside, they would go away. And the Salvation Army saw an opportunity to engage with those fans, but also to do something that would be sustainable. So use the commercial revenues that might be generated from a visitor center to support the work with these young people. And when I was told about that original vision, the strapline, the slogan that I claimed for the new center was "Gates open for good." Gates open for good. Gates open for the greater good, for the good of the fans, so they could come inside and experience something of what John experienced. Gates open for the good of these young people and their families, where they would find this place where they could learn the skills to get into paid work and would be supported to get jobs. But gates open for good also for the local community who could engage with the team on site here from the Salvation Army, helping them to explore the bigger questions of life, providing that place of sanctuary in our garden to just come and be. So that was the vision. Gates open for good, for the greater good, but also gates open forever in a sustainable way through revenues that would be generated here and stay here. So that's the vision. And, we have had, since we opened the gates, since we opened the new center here, we've had 300 plus people connect with our Steps to Work program and, learn skills, take one step closer to getting a job. And the range of needs are very different. It's been mostly younger people in the 18 to 25 age bracket, but we don't say, well, once you get 25, we're not helping you. So if we have the resources, we do. And we have those who come on the program, are with us for 18 months, get the practical experience, learn the life skills, have their confidence boosted. But for some, the next step from that is, they will say to us, I'm not ready for a full-time paid job. I'd like, part-time, or I'd like to be a volunteer in a meaningful volunteering position. And so we train them if they would like to do volunteering, and not just at Strawberry Field, here in the center, but with other organizations doing good across Liverpool. So these young people and older people come in and we hope their lives, their prospects are transformed, and anyone can apply to join our Steps programs. They come to us, they are self-referred, they come to us from local schools, colleges, local council who are aware of these young people and older people who need support to get into work. So it's open to anybody, and they don't pay for our services. As I say, we are building a sustainable model that is funded by the commercial as well as, fundraising, public fundraising by supporters.
That's incredible. I feel like that's what left one of the biggest impressions on me when I visited Strawberry Field was that program and how honorable it is. And, I just think the work that you do there is awesome, and it's great getting these young people into the workspace. And Kathy, I'd also like to thank you for coming on the podcast and giving us all a glimpse into Strawberry Field and the work that's done there, and the attractions and opportunity for fans that are there too. Is there anything else you'd like to mention about Strawberry Field, and can you tell us where people can find out more information?
Well, I'm delighted you asked that question, Jack, because I said the strapline, our vision is gates open for good. And whilst 5 years on from when we first opened to the general public, to visitors back in 2019, we have seen so much good come from that initiative. The second aspect of that vision statement, gates open forever, in a sustainable way, it's still a work in progress. We're not there yet. The Salvation Army still continues to fund this place and our programs. And so I would just invite listeners, fans, to think about, to consider how they might support us, work with us to open the gates for good forever, to ensure that this new centre at Strawberry Field is Strawberry Fields forever. And there are lots of different ways that people can support us. I mean, the first one is, you found, come and see, come to Liverpool. It's a brilliant city. Come and see Liverpool. But if you do, make sure you come to Strawberry Field, because not only will I believe you'll have a great day out, you will be doing loads of good, untold good. You will be helping to enable and inspire a new generation of Scousers. Come and see, come and visit the centre, pay, to hear the story and to see the piano and wander around the grounds. Come and buy our merchandise. You can do it in person or you can do it online. Our website is www.strawberryfieldliverpool. So come and see, visit our website, buy, our great hoodies and other items. But also, you can donate. You can donate to us again through our website to support the Steps at Strawberry Field programs, so that we can make sure that we can continue to do that vital work. Donate. For those who live, closer by, we have a volunteering program that's life enriching for the volunteers, but also they make a contribution. They give back, and we have about 80 local volunteers who come and give an hour or 3 hours a week, and they might be meeters and greeters at the front door as people come in and welcome people, or they might work in the garden, or they might mentor a young person on the Steps program. So there are loads of different ways in which people can support us to open the gates for good.
That's amazing. Kathy, thank you so much for coming on the Here, There, and Everywhere podcast.
It's been a pleasure. I'm so delighted, and blessings to you and your listeners on all that they do. And, I hope they find that abundance and that blessing that we are privileged to enjoy here, working as we do at Strawberry Field.